The orchid family is one of the largest and most beautiful on the planet. And while many people think of them as tropical treasures, there are plenty of species well suited to cooler climes, including many Australian native orchids. Wayne Turville has been collecting and growing orchids since he was a teenager. G'day, Wayne.
Hello, Jane.
So this is Wayne's world.
Yes, Barbara, yes, very much so.
It's fantastic. How many orchids have you got here?
Oh, it must be nearly 250,000 now.
And how many species altogether?
Not that many, really. There's only about 35, 45 Australian species, and it's all a blend of those put together over 30, 40 years.
So you grow mostly temperate orchids?
That's right. We grow what basically some people would call cold things. So Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Hobart is basically what I'd call temperate.
So what's one of your favourites?
Oh, this one here. It's a new one. It's called Brimbank Dream. And what's so good about it is it's got great colour, presents itself beautifully, nice, strong stem.
Now, it's a dendrobium, isn't
Yes,
it?
Australian dendrobium
And
hybrid,
they're the ones that can live on rocks, virtually.
Correct. It's called lithophytes, and in nature they hang on to cliff faces, and that's why they call them the Sydney rock orchid.
Now, the leaves look very leathery.
They are. They're incredibly tough. They're almost like the plastic you have on ice cream containers. They're really hard, leathery leaves, and that's because they can take lots of sun. They're really a very, very tough plant. They do have a lovely perfume, but only when it's above 21, 22 degrees Celsius, when the insects are out, so they don't waste their perfume.
Yeah.
So today, absolutely nothing whatsoever. But if the temperature went to about 22, that would almost burn your nose.
Now, this is a cultivar that you've bred.
Yeah, it's a little one. We called it after Flinders, because Flinders is just down the road.
Now, what's this little... Is that a little thing to indicate the bees?
It's what we call a green grub. It actually looks like a little green caterpillar, and we bred it into it as a contrast, but the bees see that in ultraviolet as like a little runway, and they come in and they land on the lip and they do their little bit of pollination. It's a little thing that's left over from the original species, but we like it because it's a contrast of colour, so we've left it in there and bred with it.
I love how it looks like someone's sort of sprayed paint onto it.
Yeah,
Splosh.
That's it. Yeah, we call that splattered.
For beauty.
This is a completely different coloured one. Just trying to get as much colour into these as we can. Colour's the most important factor in the breeding for me. We want strong, clear colours.
And they look as delicate as you could be, but they're not.
Oh, no, they're really tough. They still have this
Amazing.
hard plastic.
Yeah.
They'll take 40 degrees sun, they'll go down to freezing, but they don't like a direct frost.
I know that Cymbidium orchids need really good drainage. Same with these?
The Australian dendrobiums much more so because they're normally epiphytes hanging on the side of a tree, or they're lithophytes clinging onto a rock face.
Yeah.
So they're used to having their roots out in the fresh air, and if you put them in a pot that doesn't have a lot of good drainage, they basically suffocate. So what we do, we'd give it a squeeze, pull it out, and it should come out like a nice little sandcastle, because this one's really happy and healthy. Lovely green tip roots, the potting media hasn't broken it down. You can use your old pot as a scoop to get your levels right. In she goes, set it in so it's just a little bit below the levels, and away we go. Give it a shake so that
What's
all
in that
settles
mix?
down.
It's charcoal, scoria,
yeah, and pine bark.
pine bark. Easy.
And the important part is centre it, lots of mix, and then give it a tap or a shake to get that all settled in. And the all-important name tag. With orchids, it's incredibly important to have that name tag.
And a bit of slow-release
A
fertiliser.
little bit, just a 3-finger pinch of slow release around the top. The 8 to 9 month one is probably the better.
OK. Now, this is for if they were smaller. You've obviously got a smaller...
Correct. Smaller pot, smaller orchid, smaller mix, larger orchid, larger pot, larger grade mix. And that's why we have 3 sorts of mix here at the nursery.
And you've got perlite in there, which is also adding for good drainage.
Excellent. Perfectly good drainage, charcoal and bark.
Now, you can repot them, put them into a pot, or you can do this over here.
You can mount them.
OK, now some of these are mounted in a different way, aren't they?
That's right. They're not so much potted, they're actually mounted on a piece of black cyathea tree fern, and we mimic the way that they actually grow in nature, which is epiphytically hanging on to another host, a tree, not parasitising it, just hanging on. And so what we're doing is we're recreating that hang-on instead of a pot.
So you've just got it on the backing board.
Yes.
Just tree fern.
It's black tree fern. We prefer the black tree fern. The ginger tree fern holds a little bit too much water.
Ah, yes.
So we prefer the black if we can get it.
And then just tie it on with some fishing wire.
Yes.
A little bit of...
Little nappy of bush moss.
Yep.
Or sphagnum if you can't get the bush moss, and round and round and round with the fishing line, and then it'll attach itself incredibly quickly.
Now, does this need much fertiliser?
Well, what we do with it, we put a little bit of liquid feed into a bucket of water, and we do the old tea bag technique. And then when the mount's all fully sodden, full of the fertiliser and the water, you just hang it back up and it stays in the mount for a few weeks.
Perfect. What about light?
As much light as you can possibly give them. They
Yeah.
really are high-light plants. 90% of people that don't flower their orchids, it's because they haven't given them enough light.
Right.
And if you're going to water them, it's better to water on a rainy, windy day than a still sunny day, because you want those leaves dry by night time so you don't get fungal and bacterial infection.
So, Wayne, I've got to ask, why the passion?
I just love what I do. I'm one of these lucky people that's got the keys to the lolly shop. I cannot get up here quick enough in the morning. I don't want to go home at night. I get into trouble all the time. I think of reasons to sneak up on the weekend. But I love it. I just love what I do. I'm one of the very, very few lucky people that really want to go to work every day.
How lucky are you, eh? It's wonderful.